is a game changer, you fucking guys. This is a game changer.
Hi, I'm Warren Bardsley. You may remember me from such Daily Genius episodes as all of them. By the way, that's a Simpsons reference, and if you don't get that, well, I'll insert it here. Play that clip.
Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such educational films as 2 minus 3 equals negative fun.
So, I'm our wonderful videographer here, if you weren't already aware. And I was doing some video editing today, and I ran into a very interesting sort of situation in which I had to deal with something called frame rates. And if you're a person who knows a little something about cameras and technology, you may have heard of frame rates, or if you're a person who loves video games, like me, you'll know a little something about what a frame rate is. But as just for a basic explanation, let's give you a little intro. Cameras like this wonderful Canon that I'm recording on here record video as a series of still images per second. For example, you're watching this on a camera that's recording at a rate of 23.976 frames per second. As to why that number is so goofy, I'll explain a little bit later, but just stay with me for a second here. So now you know what a frame rate is, and you can see why it's important, because I'm going to insert one frame of black video along here, and you're going to be able to notice that difference right away. So here it goes, black frame. Boom. See that? It looked a little weird, didn't it? So that's why frames, are important, because if it's messed up, if there's an error, if there's something there that shouldn't be there, you're going to be able to see it. So let me tell you a little bit about frames per second. For example, did you know that the human eye needs a minimum of 10 to 12 frames per second in order to perceive motion? If you don't have those 10 to 12 frames, you'll just see a series of still images, which is really what video is, but it's the fact that it's playing faster or not, which gives you the sort of illusion of motion, as it were. So before I mentioned that this camera is recording at 23.976 frames per second, and I promised to explain to you the reason why that is. So, here you go. It has to do with television, the almighty television. Back when black and white TV was around, frame rates broadcasted on television was a solid 24 frames per second. But then color happened. Color! And things became more complicated. To make sure that color was broadcast along with, the images and the sound, which are pretty important as well, engineers needed to make room for data, because 24 frames per second of black and white picture and sound was the absolute cap. Like, you could not transmit any more than that. They needed to find a way to transmit color data along with the picture and the sound. And the way they did that was by just so slightly decreasing the frame rate. They were able to use that extra space that freed up and transmit color data as well. So, if you're wondering why that frame rate is such a weird number, well, it's to get around the limits of technology. Speaking of the limits of technology, have you ever wondered how fast real life goes by? It's pretty fast. I looked this up on Google, and I got a very helpful answer from a helpful gentleman who he did a bunch of math. I'm going to probably show a link to this comment on the screen here so you can read it for yourself, but he ends up figuring that the frame rate of life is 1.9 times 10 to the power of 43. And that's a big number. Like, if you try and put that number into a calculator, just be like, no, I'm not going to calculate this number. I'm just going to show it as an equation, because otherwise it would take up too much space and your head would explode with all the zeros that you see. So thank you, calculators, for saving our spaces and saving our brains. I'm just going to admit something to you right now. It's really hard doing this, like sitting down in front of a camera and trying to make coherent points. So, take it easy on people next time you see them sitting down next to a camera and not making coherent points. We're just all people trying to get by. That was Daily Genius number 75. So hope you guys found this entertaining, enlightening, anything. Leave a comment if you've got a question. Like this video if you thought this was cool. Share it if you want. I'm not going to order you around. Share it if you want. And we'll see you tomorrow for Daily Genius episode 76, featuring not me. Or maybe it will. I don't know.